Try these 5 simple ways to reflect on and process negative emotions without getting swept away. My name's Hazel Gale. I'm a former therapist turned author and creator of the Betwixt app. And if you're not already familiar with self-distancing, then what I'm about to share with you is going to straight up change your life. Self-distancing is the ability to take a step back and create some space between yourself and your difficult experiences and the emotions related to those experiences. There is a subtle but potent magic to this skill, which is, according to the studies, one of the most effective tools for emotion regulation, leading to significant reductions in negative feelings, which increase over time, as well as positive behavioural changes such as decreased aggressiveness, shown here, and also positive physiological improvements in the body's response to stressful memories. In this video, I'm going to share 5 different ways to self-distance. But first, a super quick note on trauma memories. As explored in more detail in my previous video, the results on self-distancing for trauma and PTSD are mixed. So if you have trauma that you would like to process through expressive writing or otherwise, please do so under the guidance of a therapist or doctor. With that said, let's dive in. Each of the following can be done mentally or in writing. I'll leave the choice up to you. Self-distancing option number 1 uses visual imagery. If you have aphantasia or find visualization too hard, there are other options, but I suggest you listen through this point anyway because I'm going to list some helpful questions. This one is pretty much self-explanatory. Rather than remembering the event from the first-person perspective, that is, looking out through your own eyes, imagine you are viewing the scene from a few meters away, or further if you need to. From the self-distance vantage point, you'll have access to information you hadn't considered before. So stay open to the nuances that you would otherwise have missed, and take stock of your distant self's body language and facial expressions in response to whatever's going on. If you were speaking at the time, notice the emotion in your voice and consider your choice of words. Observe your behaviours and decisions as if you're watching somebody else making them. But also be aware of any desire to construct an image that simply compounds your old version of this story. I suggest you keep your curiosity alive with questions. What's the real issue here? How exactly is your distant self responding? Which emotions are they feeling, and how are those emotions being expressed? Or not? What are they doing that makes things better? What are they doing that makes things worse? What else does this situation remind you of? Are there any other associations or memories that come to mind when you view the event in this way? If you're completing this exercise in writing, remember that the most illuminating details often surface when expressive writing follows a tangent. So even though you start with a certain event in mind, you don't have to stay in that scenario. Just make sure that when switching to secondary memories or topics, you take a moment to self-distance each time. Option 2. The perspective of an objective observer, or of a compassionate, wise, or loving observer, can be enormously powerful. In the cutest study known to humankind, 5-year-olds demonstrated an improved ability to overcome challenges when asked the question, "What would Batman do?" which forced them to view the situation through the eyes of someone else, Batman. If you don't want to use a superhero, consider inviting an insightful friend, a caring grandparent, or an important teacher or mentor into the scene. Pick anyone whose point of view you might benefit from modelling, and then step into their shoes. Note, I've written these on-screen examples to demonstrate the kinds of thought processes that might arise in your writing, but when you apply these techniques to real-life problems, you needn't try to resolve things so quickly or fully. Expect some messiness. In fact, welcome it, because the tangles are where the insights tend to hide. Just be careful not to get caught up inside them. Option 3. Avoid using the pronoun I. You can self-distance by writing or talking to yourself using the word you or your name rather than the word I or me. A little like writing yourself a letter or giving verbal advice to a friend. You can also use third-person pronouns such as they, she, he, any neo-pronouns you like, or again, your own name. This option is a bit like telling a story about yourself. This second or third person pronoun technique may be the most effective for anyone who tends to think in an internal voice. We don't all do this, of course. I definitely do. In a terrifying study on social anxiety, a group of students were told that they were going to be judged by a panel on their ability to make a good impression on a member of the opposite sex. The aim was to induce stress, in which I'm sure they succeeded. Before the judging, they were asked to reflect on their nerves using either first-person pronouns, I am feeling nervous because, or non-first-person pronouns, you are feeling nervous, or they or she or he is feeling nervous. And ultimately, not only did the judges rate the performances of those in the non-first-person group to be better overall, But those participants also reported significantly lower levels of anxiety when interviewed after the interaction. So if you're struggling with the pressure of a scary date or interview or whatever, pausing to reflect on your inner experience in either the second or third person could be a good, if a little odd-seeming idea. Option 4. When thinking or writing about a challenge in your present-day life, ask yourself the question, how will I feel about this in a week or a month or 5 years' time? Pick whatever amount of time feels right for your challenge. By imagining looking back on the event as if we've already lived through it, we draw our attention to the impermanence of our situation, which is a powerful thing on its own. But creating the space temporarily also prompts us to consider the actions we might take to overcome this challenge, as well as the growth opportunities it will most likely provide. And finally, for a more immersive experience, option 5 is to self-distance using story. In a way, we take a remote look at how life's challenges affect us whenever we throw ourselves into fiction. From the safe remove of our armchair, we follow the protagonist's journey, at once projecting ourselves into their place while simultaneously observing their plight from the outside. This is particularly dear to my heart, as it's the theory that inspired us to develop Betwixt in the first place. So you can take story and make it directly and obviously applicable to your own mental health issues by writing your own narrative. Cast yourself as the lead character of a narrative about real or imagined events. Either is absolutely fine. But if you do this, I would recommend getting creative about your character rather than trying to faithfully describe every detail of your life. It can be really interesting to see what floats up out of the shadows when you allow yourself a little poetic license. So that's it. 5 different ways to self-distance. No matter which you choose, when you do this, spend some time searching for the words that really resonate with your emotional experience. Just because you're creating space doesn't mean you won't be able to feel. Quite the opposite, in fact. This perspective can potentially facilitate a more complete emotional experience by reducing the urge to resist or deny your feelings. It enables the bravery and compassion required to get your whole truth down on the page, rather than the convenient, easy, or probably most damaging, the version of events that casts you not as the protagonist, but as the helpless victim. In other words, self-distance writing teaches you on paper how to live your off-paper life in a way that can yield the most happiness, success, and inspiration. It may not be for the faint-hearted, but it may be one of the best routes towards a wholehearted connection to the self, the other, and everything in between. As always, I really hope you find this helpful. If you do, please like and share the video so others can find it. And finally, if you'd like to take an epic journey through a magical world in pursuit of emotional wellness, then you can download Betwixt, which is a form of narrative self-distancing, by the way, available on the iOS App Store and Google Play.